Hello, everyone, and welcome to another great episode of Canadians with Disabilities and Their Allies. My name is Brent Frain. I'm the host, and PWD Allies is also on YouTube. And check out your favorite app where you find it available on Spotify. You can check it on your iPhone, Apple Store. I call it iPhone, Apple Store. Just Google search. You can find me anywhere that you want to find your favorite podcast. And today I have Kyla Lee joining me on the show. Kyla's a Vancouver criminal lawyer, and she specializes in the IRP and DUI. And she's also known as the Chip Guru. Welcome, Kyla Lee.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Hi, it's a great pleasure having you join on here, and it's always great segments having expertise, knowledge in certain areas, and advocacy. It never takes a rest. Advocacy on either defending people's rights, human rights, or whatever it may be. Talking about how things affect people's lives in so many different ways in society. We'll dive into your area of expertise first.
Just before we launch, I just wanted to put a teaser out for people that are watching. That they have to stay tuned to the end, because we're gonna do a live chip tasting at the end. For the Chip Guru. Yeah.
Long-awaited return of Chip Guru.
There you go.
Oh yeah.
And I also wanted to mention, we should almost change the name for the PWD podcast for Brent Breaks the Internet, because you're all over Google, you're all over the internet now.
breaking with Brent, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, carry on. Leave it to your producer to derail the show.
Sure, why not?
It's the sign of a good producer.
Yeah.
There we go. Well, thank you, Kyla, again for coming on. This is awesome having you join on, and we had your colleague Prairie Paul on just recently, and he was talking about his songwriting and how successful that's coming along, and some of the cases that he's gone through, and kind of in the same situation what you're doing too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Going through criminal law, and I'm sure some days are probably can be trying, and other days not as bad.
Yeah, they don't call it a trial because if it isn't trying.
That's true.
That's true. Yes.
I love the work I do. I think it's super fun, but it is exhausting, and it's also, I think, sometimes really emotionally exhausting, like more than it is physically. Just because I deal with so many people who all have, a significant need for their driver's license, a significant, impact on them by the actions that the state is taking against them, and a very, very limited mechanism to challenge those state actions. And sometimes it just feels like you're pushing a big rock uphill and you're not getting very far.
Well, yeah.
We know all about that, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Pushing the big rock, yeah.
Yeah, over the mountain, and just hoping that it's not going to come falling back on you. Because
or that it goes rolling down the other side of the mountain and you lose control.
Yeah.
That's right. And that's what I think a lot of people are going through these days of, thinking, well, when's things going to relieve? When are they going to get some kind of relief of financial I guess, equality. And I guess it breaks down into what I'm going to talk to you next about is there's financial equality of people having to pick and choose of like medications for their disability. And like say when they're driving, if they're disabled, they're driving a vehicle and they're having medication because of their disability. How does that impact them when they're driving? Like say they get pulled over, maybe an officer thinks that they're drinking and driving, but they're not. They're actually on medication, or it's their disability that's affecting their driving.
Yeah, so there's a lot of ways that can happen. The most common way that we think about, like when we talk about medication and disability, is when it comes to sort of drug impaired driving. Mm-hmm. So under the Criminal Code of Canada, the Criminal Code says that you cannot drive or operate a motor vehicle if your ability to do so is impaired by a drug. And for people who take medication for a disability, for a medical condition, something like that, their ability to operate the motor vehicle isn't impaired by the drug. If anything, if I know somebody has an issue that's being treated by a drug to make them, more capable of driving, more capable of doing things that we have to do, I would want them to have that drug in their body if they're driving, and not the opposite. But the law doesn't have a mechanism to sort out those cases. So what happens is police officers stop somebody, and they investigate it, and then as a result of investigating it, they do a series of tests. So there's 2 stages of tests that police do. The first is called the standardized field sobriety test, and that is a set of 3 different tests that are done at the roadside. The first one you've probably seen this on like Cops, if you've ever watched Cops, where they put the pen in front of your eyes and you follow the pen with your eyes. Yeah, super great. I see both of you wear glasses. Yeah. Super great for people who have problems with their vision, because your eyes don't behave like my eyes, where I don't have problems with my vision. And so that is something that is an issue. There's also the problem that with the second 2 sets of tests, which are tests that are testing your balance and testing your physical coordination. So they're looking at things like whether you can stand on one leg for 30 seconds and without, you lift like one foot off the ground about a foot, stick it out, point your toe, hands at your sides, and then stand there for 30 seconds. And don't fall over, don't hop, don't use your arms for balance, which is crazy, because that's actually interfering with your vestibular system, which requires 3 things: 2 feet on the ground, your inner ear control, and your arms, which are a huge part of your balance. So they do that. And if you have any type of physical disability with your hips, your legs, your knees, even your spine, all of that's going to be affected by that. And then the third test they do, this is the most complicated one, is walking the line. And you'd think like walking a straight line, super easy.
Walk the line.
I walk the line.
Yeah.
Oh, we're getting Paul back already.
That's right, yeah.
Oh yeah.
So they want you to take 9 heel to toe steps, and you have to touch your heel to your toe, and then you have to do a special turn, a specific way, and then 9 heel to toe steps back. Again, arms at your sides, walking along this imaginary line. And they give this long list of instructions for how to do it. So if you have like a cognitive impairment, cognitive disability, attention deficit disorder, as the officer is sort of parroting this list of instructions while you're standing there not being told to start, you're going to do things that are going to trigger false scores on the test, and that's going to lead to your arrest. So that's the first stage. Just in the first stage, it's already set up for people to fail. Then you get to the second stage, which is called the drug recognition evaluation. And this is a 12-step program. And they do a bunch of things where the officer basically becomes doctor, and it's really funny. Like they get a stethoscope and like a little kit. They got a blood pressure cuff and a thermometer, and like they will measure the size of your pupils. They will test your muscle tone, but not like in a proper way. They just squeeze you and see if you're flaccid or rigid.
Oh wow!
Yeah, like please don't do me. I don't want to know.
I haven't heard the term flaccid for that
Oh yeah, we use those terms a lot.
Please don't squeeze that arm. How about this one? Why? Well, because I just got my shot in this arm. Oh, geez,
yeah, exactly.
ow.
I did just 2 days ago, and it's still sore right here. So hopefully I don't get arrested.
Well, I got the flu shot and the COVID shot in the one arm. It's just, well, which arm? I said, just do it on one arm. Let's just be I said, let's be a trooper and let's just get it done. She goes, oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So they test things like your muscle tone, which again, like, depending on what, if you have disabilities and what type of disabilities you have, your muscle tone might not be what is expected. Because you might not be like very mobile, and using a lot of muscles all the time, or using certain muscles and not others, to compensate for things. And
my tone as somebody with cerebral palsy, it's like so like it's off the scale, like it's too much, right?
So they would call you too rigid, and they would say that's a sign that you're on a stimulant.
And it's like, no, it's just my disability.
No, you're on cocaine according to the police.
Because I mean, it can throw your balance right off. I mean, if you have an inner ear infection, or you have an inner ear imbalance, I mean, it can really throw you up, especially staying on one leg. Like, wow. Good thing I'm just doing exercises or something, staying on one leg.
And then they also do things like they test your blood pressure, which, you take anybody and arrest them and put them through a series of physical and medical tests from a police officer who's saying you're on drugs. Of course, their blood pressure is not going to be normal. And if you have a medical condition, you might have an elevated heart rate or a higher blood pressure. Like, I mean, high blood pressure is a medical hypertension, right? Like, that's a medical condition. It's a disability. But it's also something that would cause the police to conclude you're on drugs. And so they take all of this information from the 12 tests that they do at the police station, repeat the roadside tests as part of that, and then they interpret it to determine which class or category of drugs you are impaired by. And then they'll take a urine sample. And as a result of the combination of the tests and the officer's interpretation of the tests and what shows up in your urine, if the category of drugs is present in your urine, or metabolites of that category of drug are present in your urine, and the officer identified that, then it is presumed as a matter of law that you were impaired and that you were impaired by that drug. So even if you take like you're a person with ADHD and you take like Ritalin or Vyvanse, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, but like one of those stimulant medications. That are good for you. You take that, and because of your disability and dealing with the police officer, the officer says, I think you're on a stimulant, and then it shows up in your urine, even though it's actually something that is treating you. You're going to be presumed to be impaired in your ability to operate a motor vehicle by that as a matter of law.
Wow.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Yeah, that is. I mean, and it's supposed to help the person, but no. They say.
This is a slightly different matter, but it's kind of the same thing. Is like with the Ministry of Social Development and the Ministry of Children and Families, because my first wife had a disability, fairly significant disability. Right, she was in a wheelchair her whole life, needed carriage 24/7. And of course, I was born with my cerebral palsy. And because we had a son, like an able-bodied son, the ministry automatically assumes, like children and families and the Ministry of Social Development, they both assume that our son, when he was born, your son is going to be at risk because there's two disabled parents. So they automatically consider our son to be at high risk because he's being parented by two disabled parents.
That's insane.
It was. I mean, they told us point blank too. Like, it was like they didn't even hide it. They said, under our current what do we want to call it, regulations or whatever we want to say, your son we consider you two high-risk parents because of your disability. I was like, whoa. And it's like, wow, that floored me. It just floored me. You know.
Do they still do that? Do you know?
I think so. You know,
wow.
and that blew me away. And I guess getting a little off topic, but it goes to show you that the stigma. I was trying to get to the stigma of it, right? Like it's just like automatically painting the brush and saying because you're disabled, you're this, or you're less than capable, or something, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so that it's the idea that you draw the assumption that somebody disabled is going to do something wrong first.
Yeah, it's just automatic.
Rather than assessing the unique circumstances and giving people the benefit of the doubt. Assume you're probably not going to have a kid if you can't look after your kid. I mean, that's what we assume about able-bodied parents, even though lots of them are terrible at it. But we give able-bodied parents the benefit of the doubt. Oh, you're able to walk and reproduce? Perfect. Go forth, have kids. We'll intervene if necessary.
Yeah, because for sure we had like lots of discussions. I mean, it wasn't just like, well, let's try it. Let's try this. You know, it was
like I think most people, you know, when they decide to have a kid, have lots of discussions.
Well, that's what you're supposed to do anyway.
I remember a time riding a bike. I had this mountain bike, and I got it all geared up and mirrors on both sides, and a horn. Oh yeah, I got a horn and a little radio on the front, and I had reflector lights on the back, Kyla, and I would press a little button. It would tell me, tell the people behind me if I'm turning right or left. Oh yeah, and it would be flashing, blink, 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 and an arrow on it too. Anyway, it cost me like $200 to get this thing all decked right out, wearing a helmet. And I guess I didn't have my helmet on. It was kind of off a little bit, like kind of wobbly a little bit, right? And I had taken allergy medicine at the time. It was a bad allergy season, and I kept wiping my eyes, and this cop car goes by me, and I'm whipping down. I just put it into like, I think 15th, 16th gear, and I'm just clipping along. And I said, yeah, you know what, I'm gonna click this into 18th gear. Let's see how fast this little sucker can go. So I'm just booting along, and it's a flat road, and there's a stop sign further up, and of course I'm slowing down because it's a four-way stop. It just because I'm riding a bike doesn't mean that I still have to follow the rules of the road, right? So I stopped, and I slowed right down, and I stopped. And I saw in my mirrors behind, the cop was way back there. And something told me he had like one of those guns. He's just kind of watching the speed of it. So anyway, I stopped, and I continued on. And further down, also I see this flashing lights.
Speeding to get on your bike?
No, he stops me. No, he just pulls me over, and he pulls in front of me, and he goes, how you doing? I go, good. He goes, so you got that helmet on tight enough there? And I go, yeah. And he goes, it should be on a little bit tighter. I noticed that you were, I observed that you were wiping your eye. Or you got something in your eye? I go, it's just allergies. I see. You know that you should really be careful, because riding a bike and you're doing that, it could be a distraction and not really focusing on that on the road. And I said, are you freaking kidding me? He goes, you know what? Like I'm not going to give you a ticket, because technically I could give you a ticket because you slowed down, you stopped, but then you continued on. You looked both ways, no cars coming, but you kept going. You should have fully stopped, complete stop, and then going out. Sir, there was nobody even around me. Like it was like, he goes, doesn't matter. I'm like, wait, so that was that. I'm going, oh my God. Yeah. And then another time downtown Langley, I'm riding my bike, and they say, it's not safe because cars, you can open their doors, you can get doors slammed, right? And you're riding your bike. So I'm walking my bike, and it was on an area where a sidewalk where it says no bikes, you can't ride your bikes. Well, I got off. And go figure, the same cop later that day, he goes, shakes his head. I'm glad that you're walking your bike, because you can't be riding your bike on that sidewalk. It's dangerous and it's not allowed. I go, right, sir. Yeah. So that was my story.
Oh my goodness.
I was just like, oh man, this guy is just having
what are the odds?
He just wants to get some brownie points or something. I don't know what was going on there.
It's a very bored day for police. That's one of the rare situations where I would feel like the statement that people often make to police officers when they don't think they're being treated fairly. Don't you have any real crime to fight? Might be appropriate. Shouldn't you be out investigating?
I was wondering if you and Paul should do a duet of like, I fought the law and the law won.
Oh, I like this. I like the Sex Pistols version better, where I fought the law and I won.
That's that's what it should be. You should do the reverse.
Yeah. We are. Mm-hmm. Wow. It's really amazing on what you look at the priorities of what some of the officers are doing. And they're going after people that are sleeping rough on the streets. Versus businesses getting broken into. They're trying to be in a whole bunch of places at the same time. There's so much of that going on in the communities lately in Vancouver alone. London drugs, they're having a huge problem there, where there's huge theft going on. I mean, so the police are having to constantly attend their downtown and downtown Victoria, same thing. Storefronts
too.
Yeah, it's everywhere, and they're having to be in all these places at the same time, and then they go after little granny who's walking across the road and saying, "Well, are you going to be okay?" Because this other car's speeding along, and then they'll start lecturing her about she should maybe be walking with somebody else. I witnessed that the other day. And the cop says you should maybe be walking with somebody else because. The traffic, they don't always stop here, even though they're supposed to. You're on a marked crosswalk, And she says, you know what she said to the officer? I heard it. She says, "Sir, you could be actually my grandchild. You need to carry on and actually do your job. Yeah. You need to move on, sir." And he goes, "I am, ma'am. Ma'am, you're not taking it seriously." "Actually, I am. And if you don't move, my stroller is going to bang into your police car. You're now gonna have to move on." I thought,
that is awesome. I want to meet that lady.
Well, so he goes to her lady. He goes, "Thank you, ma'am. Have a good day."
Well, when you mentioned the shoplifting, Brent, I mean, that raises an issue too, is because you always hear about the police officers making arrests, and then for some reason, like in something like that, they like charges are never laid, or there's no actual punishment. Like there's no follow through. It's just like, well, that was bad of you, like this, and then off they go. And I mean, I understand that there's defense lawyers that are going to defend and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, if you do something and it's confirmed that you have stolen something, I mean, you shouldn't just get a slap on the wrist of what noodle and like, please don't do that again, Brent, or please don't do that again, Neil. Like there's got to be a little bit more deterrent than that.
Well, the thing is, you're always proven not guilty, right? I mean, until they have to prove the reasons of doubt that you committed that crime. And so, I mean, if you're in a grocery store, I mean, Sonia and I see this all the time, Kyla. I mean, what do? I mean, we're in the produce section, and I see somebody over the other area, and there's some grapes there, and you open the bag, and they're, this lady's looking around, and she's just punching away, and I'm thinking, or you see another lady just getting, a bag and an apple and just kind of drop it at the person,
Yeah, I mean, as far as that type of shoplifting, I'm kind of sympathetic to it, because especially right now, like grocery prices are so insane.
Oh my God.
Who's the person?
You understand it. You
robbed?
understand why it's happening for sure.
Yeah. The store is robbing us. So, eating a few grapes, I'm content to turn a blind eye to that. I mean, obviously it's illegal, don't do it, but I'm not calling the police or alerting store security if I see it. And then when it comes to, Neil, what you mentioned about people who, they get arrested and then they just get released, that's not necessarily always the case. So there's something that British Columbia does, and it's part of the BC Crown Council policy, which is for people where it's first time offense, or maybe like a second time, and very rarely, but still sometimes a third time. If you get arrested for shoplifting, the police can forward the file to Crown Council, who can look at it, and they can do a couple different things. They can issue you a warning letter. So you get a letter in the mail being like, you were arrested for shoplifting. Don't do it again. Otherwise, we're going to bring charges. And they have a year from 18 months technically, but they have a long time from when the incident took place to actually lay a charge, so they can keep that file. sitting in the Crown Council office. And if you come back, they can go back to that file where they said, I wasn't going to do anything, and then decide to approve that charge after a period of time. And they can also refer you to a program. It's called alternative measures. And it's essentially like a restorative justice program. So you have to go meet with a probation officer. The probation officer talks to you about what happened. You have to admit that you did it, take responsibility, demonstrate remorse. And then they give you a series of tasks to complete. So things like writing an apology letter, writing an essay on the, the cost of shoplifting, or
I'll do this again. I'll do this.
Well, kind of like that, but a little more restorative, right? Like usually there's some community work service volunteering stuff required. And so long as you complete that plan, then the charges go away. But if you don't complete that plan, or you say, I didn't do it, I'm not taking responsibility, then you have to go through the court system. So a lot of first-time offenders or second-time offenders who are caught shoplifting end up going through these programs. And they have been very successful at deterring people from continuing to engage in the behavior. So what the public might perceive as like a catch and release situation isn't necessarily always what's happening.
Well, that's good to know then.
Yeah, because I know lately on the news you hear about these prolific offenders who, I mean, in some cases, Kyla, in one day they've now gone into the same business, or maybe a couple of businesses down the street from where it is, and they go in and they break into a place and they get arrested and they go back out and then they do it again and they again.
But the people that are doing that are not, generally speaking, are not people who are just doing it because they're bad folks who want to commit crimes. They're people with disabilities. They're people with addictions issues, mental health issues, people who can't afford to eat, and so they have to steal to eat. And so what we're calling, when we have this prolific offender discussion, like I hate talking about people using that terminology because I think it's very dehumanizing. It reduces individuals to their crimes, and it fails to recognize that whatever has been happening for that person to put them in that position is continually not being addressed, and that person is continually not getting the support that they need from government and from community, and the resources that are available are not servicing them. And that's leading to a problem for the community. But that should not be the case. As a community, we should want to give that person what they need to succeed, not continue to perpetuate these stereotypes that because you engage in criminal behavior, you must be a criminal, you must be violent, you must be somebody we need protection from.
Yeah, it's amazing on the language that the government will use that, they'll stigmatize it. Well, that's the individuals, who they are, and this is what they're doing. Like they'll call it, like say, prolific offender or some magic pink unicorn name, or a situation. They'll just call it whatever. And but the underlying issue is, why is the person, like you mentioned, I'm glad you said that, like why is that person doing what they're doing? What is it that can be done to help that person maybe stop doing what they're doing? But because I mean, downtown Victoria, like I see them people sitting in front of storefronts, and there's a lot of reasons why they're there.
Another example that I can give just personally is a few months ago, for quite a while, the building where I am, my condo, we were dealing with a few homeless people in the condo that were using our underground parking as living quarters, and they were they were using a portion of the underground parking. And you understand why that's happening, because of course, I mean, homeless is becoming more of an issue. But the problem with that, of course, is they were lighting fires down there, and one got out of hand, and we actually had to call the fire department. So now you're putting the whole building at risk. Like it's a safety issue. And they were leaving like drug paraphernalia, and like they were defecating everywhere. And so, and like all this, like we had to spend, it was over, like we had two times we had to call in, the Got Junk or one of those. And there was 2 times we called them for and it was only for the homeless 2 times, and that was like over, I think it was $750 each time to clear out like drug paraphernalia and just like I said, feces and just garbage and all the rest of it. And so that's like $1,500, that our strata had to pay, and like I said, and put the lives of people's building that live in the building at risk. And like, again, like, I'm sympathetic because I know like homeless is a serious thing. But we're getting to the point where that you can kind of see, well, we talk about policies all the time, right? And this is where you wish government would do more, because they just kind of wash their hands of it, and it's just like they passed the cost on to other people because they don't want to deal with the cost, right? So it gets passed on to everybody else.
Well, and it's only going to get worse too, because we saw, what was it, like earlier this week, the BC government introducing, as part of, they have a bunch of bills. Like, the government has been legislating everything that you could possibly imagine under the sun, to try and deal with social issues. But when they're dealing with social issues, they're actually just legislating away their responsibilities. So right now, there's two important things happening. One is with respect to drug users and decriminalization. And we know, we brought in this decriminalization experiment so that we could get people in British Columbia access to clean, safe drugs in a way that would prevent the huge number of deaths that are happening, which are people who have addictions and people who don't have addictions. So people with disabilities and people who don't have disabilities are equally dying from drugs. And the government has now brought in legislation that says if you're using drugs within like any particularly distance of like a playground, a schoolyard, all these different places, where children would be. Mm-hmm. But they've also given police powers that if on reasonable grounds, they believe that somebody has used drugs or is using drugs in one of these places, they can go up and they can tell the person to stop using drugs or move them to a different location. Move them away, like literally force somebody to pack up and leave. So you have all these people who are going to be displaced, forced into the corners, and then potentially overdose and die in a place where they're not going to be found.
That's like trying to get rid of a nuisance bearer or something, right?
Yeah. It's basically just trying to, like, hopefully we can kill enough people that we don't have to look at this problem that we have. Yeah. And that's terrible.
Shifting it off to another area. Yeah. Like, it's not it's like the housing issue. I remember in Surrey, for instance, they used to be always known on King George Highway, always known as it was the bad area. So they shifted them all off. Well, let's get rid of them all, push them to another community. So where did they go? New Westminster, then they found their way into Vancouver, downtown east side. Good. Yeah. Oh, now they're there. Oh, the other community said, hey, we cleaned everything up. Well, did you? No.
And that brings me to the second piece of legislation that the government's introduced that is only going to make this problem, Neil, that you had worse, is they've now legislated, because there have been a number of lawsuits in Canada that have been successful, where advocates for the homeless have brought challenges to decampment actions taken by government and said it is a violation of your charter rights if you're forced to decamp if there is not sufficient available shelter space. And that's, that's logically, you want to say there's no shelter space, you can't force people out of an encampment. At least they have a place and a community in that situation.
Right.
The government in BC just tabled legislation that purports to define what sufficient available shelter space is, using a different definition than has been applied in the courts to stop legislation, or to stop litigation that's contemplated and being launched in British Columbia related to this. And again, is essentially forcing people into situations like the one that Neil's describing, where they can't go to a shelter, they can't be in an encampment, and they're gonna end up in people's parkades.
You know what that sounds like to me? That sounds like another pink unicorn to me. It's making shit up. It's like, well, let's invent a definition that doesn't exist.
Well, but Neil, we were just at the bus stop yesterday, actually early yesterday evening, just walking by, and there's a lady who lives in my building. she was petrified. She says, "Oh, I'm glad that you're there. Can I talk to you for a minute?" I said, "Oh, sure." And I said, "Well, I do." She knows I do the podcast, and I said, "Yeah, like, what's up?" And she's like, "There's a homeless guy, and he found his way right to the front door of our building." I said, "Oh, you mean the guy that was just across the road?" Like, I literally saw it. She goes, "I guess she must have came out of the building, and I didn't realize that." And she said, "Yeah." I said, "Oh, you mean the guy that almost got hit by the vehicle? Because he was staggering here and there, and he was all over the place, and vehicles stopping, and he just like literally stopped inside the middle of the road and just kind of almost looked like he was going to dance in the middle of the road." I thought, oh my God, like, what are you doing, sir? I thought, and next thing I know, apparently he made his way back to the building. We have a bench in front of our building. He sat down and he was doing his drugs right in front of the building, and she came out of the building. And so, long story short was, okay, well, where did he come from? He came from an encampment that the city said, nope, they need to take down the encampment. That day was the last day they could have the encampment. He has nowhere to go, and there's no shelters. The government said they're building more places for them, but they're temporary shelters. In my view, they need to have permanent housing for them to go to. These temporary shelters, it's like a Band-Aid over the problem. Not gonna fix it.
If you have a bunch of people who are in need of services and support, and they're all in an encampment, you know where to centralize your efforts in giving people those resources, where to send the community resource teams, how to find people. They're probably going to be there. Whereas if people are just transient, sleeping in whatever doorway or parkade that they can find, and then moving on before people wake up the next morning, they're less able to access services because service providers are less able to find them.
Right. They're kind of scattered all throughout the community, and they never keep track of them. It's like when the government sends out the homeless count. How many people are homeless, or how many people are living precariously housed? Maybe the couch surfing or whatever it may be. If they're not there when they come and do their tracking, they can never really get that accurate number of how many people need to be helped in whatever the case may be. And
look at how much higher it was this year.
Yeah.
The numbers are quite high.
Well, we're gonna be talking about this more probably in our roundtable on Monday. Because we always get into bigger discussions. But what I was now I'm gonna lose my train of thought again. I hate that when that happens. Come back to me. Just give me a second, but you can keep talking. I hate that. The train left the station a little bit. Bring it back. Never mind. I'll come back to it.
I think it was maybe it was regarding the ministry and some of the figures, maybe.
That was. And I know what I was going to say is when the idea that the government, they have this idea that if they put money into something, like, for example, just as one example, the government thinks that if they give PWD more money, like in PWD assistance, that somehow that money is just getting flushed. Like, they're gonna give it, and it's just gonna disappear. It's gonna disappear into the ether, right? There's gonna be no actual return on investment. That's kind of what they feel like, right? And it's like, I wish they would think about it differently. Like, if you give people money, you're not just flushing the money down the toilet.
No.
I mean, no.
You're equipping people to get better resources that allow them to.
I mean, especially for people like you and me, Brent. I mean, they tie us down so we're not even mobile to leave the province, for crying out loud. So
can you have 30-day day pass?
Yeah. So of course if they give us more money, of course we're going to spend the money here. Mm-hmm. So if we're spending the money here, the money's going back. It's being pumped back into the economy. It's not going offshore or something. Mm-hmm. I'm not investing the money in offshore accounts. I'm not in, hiding the money somewhere else. It's like
in the Cayman Islands or somewhere.
It's getting spent and it's getting reinvested in the BC economy, and for some reason they don't. I don't know what the disconnect is. It's like, well, if we just give people money, it's just going to disappear, and they're nothing. We're going to get nothing out of it.
What are you going to do? Hoard it in your big pile of money in your massive bank account? Like,
yeah, exactly. I'm gonna hide it under my mattress for 10 years, and they're never gonna see it again. Yeah.
Probably gonna do things that I wouldn't do otherwise in my community.
Yeah.
I mean, here's a great concept that I always get a good laugh about, and Neil knows where I'm going with this one. It's like the day pass or the month pass. Well, can I leave the province? Oh yeah, no. You need 30 days. You need to tell the government that you're leaving, so that and they will make that decision if they feel that it's valid that you can leave the province for maybe to go on a holiday or go to see a relative or I don't know, whatever it may be. I mean, wow, it kind of gets back to I remember way back in early high school, Kyla, or even elementary school, right? I mean, geez, even college days, right? Of course, I joke around with my instructor back then. I'll get to that in a sec. Because I'd say, well, can I go to the washroom? Well, Brent, go. Don't tell me about it. You need to go. Well, yeah, I just don't want to be rude, or I just want to disrupt the class. Just go, okay? You need to go.
I used to like the teachers that would say, I don't know, can you?
Yeah. One of my
Let's find out right now.
One of my high school teachers used to say the same thing, Neil. Can you? I go, I guess I can. Well, I don't know. Only you would know if you can. And then so I would actually joke further down the line when I was in college, and I was a business administration program, and then I took a travel and customs and an immigration program. Yeah, it was quite interesting with that one. And I pulled the same line. Oh, the instructor was like, "Are you kidding me? You need to go and use the washroom." I go, because they was giving a presentation and I didn't want to miss anything. They're like, if you need to go, you just get up and go. You don't tell me about your problems, Brent. Go. I go, oh, okay, because I wasn't sure if it was appropriate. You know what? Go now while you can. I was like, but I joked around because I remember reading about how the government at that time. I was reading about how the government would say, "Yeah, you need permission to go," and they're like, "No, if you need to do something in life, you need to just go and do. You don't need permission. You just go and do."
Yeah.
Yeah, and they said, "Yeah, what was that?"
We have Dan in chat, and one of his comments is, "You're making good points," and he says, "Kyla for PM."
No. Politics is so toxic right now.
It's true.
I was just talking about this yesterday. Like, it is. A politician can barely breathe without being criticized by somebody. I do not want to constantly be in that. Like, I'm criticized enough because I'm on the internet. So
yeah.
I don't want to make it worse. So no politics for me, but thank you for the support.
Yeah. And I see a lot of that happening lately. Even the Green Party just recently. I was watching the news hour last night. Elizabeth May for the Green Party. Apparently, she had a stroke, and it was undiagnosed. She was putting in 19-hour days, and she said the debate that they would get in the House of Commons, back and forth, and she says it's part of what they do, and they. But I guess the pressure must have got to her so much, and she got a major headache, and she thought, okay, is this probably a thing? Maybe I don't slow down. She went to go and try and see a doctor. She doesn't have a family doctor. Her family doctor retired. So she waited to try to get in. She had to wait, I think, a month before she was actually diagnosed. She went in after a week, but she had to go and see somebody else, and then they diagnosed after a month. And it was some kind of a form of stroke, but she now learns that she's going to have to slow it down and just got to go with the flow in life, and and not say, hey, politics are politics. I mean, and that's one thing that when I see people who get into that, and great. I mean, that's great if they do. I mean, that's awesome. But the problem is that the system, it's a systemic thing, is that they can get so far and they want to accomplish so much, but the system stops them. It stops them from doing a lot of things that they want to do for whatever reason. And I know some of them, they try their best, and kudos to them. Like, it doesn't matter, like, nonpartisan, kudos to all of them that try their best. But then you have to learn that, I mean, if things affect them so much, they got to take a step back a little bit and say, I can only do what I can do. And then if they feel that they can't do, they just take a leave and say,
the system stops us. The system stops us too, Brent.
Well, yeah. Well, it doesn't stop advocacy.
That's true. I was gonna say we have about 20 minutes left. I didn't know if you wanted to segue into the chip segment or make final comments on this first. Do you have any final comments, Kyla, before we?
Oh, I mean, I had lots of things I was going to say.
Well, we can keep going. I didn't.
I do not need 20 minutes to eat a bag of chips. Trust me, it's like 4 seconds and it's gone.
Okay.
There was a part that I did want to kind of pass by you there, Kyla. It was about designated parking spots for disabled people.
Yeah.
Now, that could be quite contentious, because what do you do if somebody parks in there and it says they don't have a stick or a little decal that says, hey, wheelchair accessible, and they just pull up there because they don't want to walk further in the parking lot, they want to get close to the grocery store. Meanwhile, a person who is designated as a disabled person,
do you notice that the shopping malls and everything, they whenever they have to clear snow, they put all the snow in the disabled spots? Like all the time I see that big piles of snow, and they're always in the accessible spots, and everything else is clear.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa, okay.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, a couple things. First of all, I don't really see, I'm not looking for it, right? Because I'm not using those spots, and I'm not parking them in them either. So I don't really see people taking the spots, but maybe that's, that's a blind spot that I really need to work on, I think, probably. Because I think it's incumbent on all of us as allies. If we see somebody parking in that spot who doesn't have the placard and doesn't have the sticker, to say something and say, you need to move out of that spot and make that available for the person for whom it's designated. Police do have some limited ability to enforce that, but it really depends on the type of parking lot too. Because if you have if I have my own parking lot, this is like a very open secret that I have this parking lot in Merritt. I don't have any, there's no markings on any of the parking spots. There's just stalls. It's not next to anything. But if I were to go up there and I were to, paint the symbol on some stalls to make them designated accessible spots, because it's just a random private parking lot.
I'll give you a can of paint or
It's not really something that the police have the power to enforce, because they're not enforcing a rule or a municipal bylaw or an obligation. Whereas if it is a parking lot that has, a lot of municipalities have bylaws associated with, if you have space, you have to have space for parking. And if you have space for parking, you have to designate this many stalls based on the size of the parking lot for accessible stalls. And they have to be not so many feet from a doorway and so wide. If it's one of those, then police have powers within the municipal bylaws to enforce who can and can't park there. So it really depends. And the problem is, it's not like police are going and looking up whatever permits have been granted for any particular parking lot. So beyond sort of the examples you've given earlier of police saying something to you, they don't have a ton of power to do anything about it. Now, there's obviously a difference if it's like a city-owned lot or like an actual part of the roadway governed by the Motor Vehicle Act. Then they can ticket you for disobeying a traffic control device, and that has 2 points. So to avoid points, err on the side of caution and only park where you're allowed.
Well, talk about parking. Then there's the Air Canada fiasco. Hear about that going on? The wings of Air Canada gave them a lashing. They gave them a whip. The wings really clipped them real bad. Bad PR for Air Canada. Leaving people with disabilities with their accessible devices behind.
Well, and likely they are going to be facing human rights tribunal claims under there's federal human rights code that would apply, because it's aviation, so it's under the jurisdiction of the federal government. And yeah, a federal human rights code complaint could have significant consequences for Air Canada. Now, they've vowed to change things, but I don't know. I feel like I've been hearing stories about airlines doing this since as long as I've been aware of airlines.
So to me, it's funny that it's only come to light now because like it's literally been decades. I've heard stories of damaged wheelchairs like, you know, on a regular basis. And it's only come to light now, which is strange to me. You know, I don't know.
I will say, like, I think there is power now in social media, in that people whose voices previously might not have been able to get out there because of, you know, things that limited their ability to access, you know, communicating with news organizations. Now you have Twitter at your fingertips, you have TikTok, you can tell your story and you can reach an audience of millions within seconds. And that has been,
as long as Elon doesn't turn the X, you know.
Yeah. Well, we won't talk about Elon. I don't want to get kicked off the platform before sharing my views, but you can guess what they are. But I think, you know, that part of social media, for all its pitfalls, has been very powerful for people who otherwise have not had the opportunities to share their stories. And so people are becoming more aware, which allows people to also be better allies, to look out for situations like this, to speak out about it, and to use the power that they have as a result of privilege that they have to make conditions better for other people. So, you know,
absolutely.
There's fun silver lining, I guess.
There's, exactly. I mean, the wings will sail. I mean, rather than clipping them right back, you know. There was an airline, I was reading that before the show came on, there was an airline that took off from the UK, apparently. It was used as a prop set for a film, and it took off, it flew up to 10,000 feet, and then they realized there was some panes that were missing on two windows.
Wow.
They had to turn it around and go back again.
How do you just miss that? By the way.
That happened to me once on a flight. I was flying from Key West to Chicago, and we took off from the Key West airport. Key West is the very tip of Florida. It's the last of the Florida Keys. It's the southwestern point of the United States. And so we take off, and we're supposed to be going in the direction of Chicago, which is over land. But I'm looking out the window, and I'm noticing we're just kind of circling over water repeatedly. And I'm like, that's really weird. We're not getting any higher. We're not going anywhere. It's like 10 minutes, 15 minutes. And then the pilot comes on and he says, oh yeah, we're just, folks, we're just having a problem maintaining cabin pressure. It's like, oh my God, we're going to die. Cabin pressure is like, you'll pass out and then you'll die. The plane will fly until it runs out of fuel or crashes into something, whichever comes first. I was terrified. And so we had to make an emergency landing in Miami, which I fly a lot, and I've never done an emergency landing before. He's on they redid the safety demonstration with the masks twice, because of course, no pressure, you need the oxygen mask. And then as we're landing in Miami, he's like, and we're expecting a really rough landing, but don't worry, we're going to have fire crews waiting on the runway, riding alongside our plane. So, you know, if we catch fire, they'll be able to put out. Oh my God.
Wow.
I see, as we're flying into the Miami airport, the fire trucks are coming out these roadways on the side of the runway, and literally they're alongside the plane on both sides, following us along, lights and sirens activated. And I thought, oh my gosh, we're gonna die. And it was the smoothest landing I have ever had. Like, I fly a lot. It was beautiful, gentle, touchdown on the runway, came to a stop. I was like, all this anxiety, and it was perfect. But oh my God, terrifying.
That reminds me of a time, it was in 2000, when was it? Beginning of January 2017. It was in the election year when we had provincial election. And I remember I took a couple weeks absence because we went on a little holiday. It was a Christmas gift from Sonia's parents. And so they said, well, we're going to get you a round trip tickets to go down to Palm Springs. I'm like, oh, wow. And I'm like, well, I've never flown on WestJet before. And okay, well, so I look at the forecast and she says, oh, we should go now. And I said, well, I booked the hotel in Richmond. And we went over to Best Western. I booked it for 2 nights because I figured, well, just in case, you know, there's any weather mishaps, I want to make sure we're there. So I set a day early. And so it was actually, I think, 3 days. She said 2 days, I said 3. So anyway, the argument was 3 days. We went, get there, checked in, ice storm everywhere. Man, it was bad. It was really bad, and they had no salt. They ran out of salt in Richmond to put on the sidewalks. Are you kidding me? So you can imagine 2 people trying to put luggage and going, whoa, flip slide. And then no transit, everything kind of grinding halt. So I could see it right there from the Candeline station. I knew it was over there. I'm thinking, how am I going to get from here to there? Anyway, it took about 3 times as long to walk there than it should have. We got there and checked in. I went and looked at the hotel across the road. Got accommodation over there. Checked out of there that night. Bad. It was bad, really bad situation. Like, this is not the accommodation that we're paying for. So I go over to the Holiday Inn. No problem. Complimentary shuttle, free breakfast. It worked out. So anyway, off to the airport we go, Kyla, and standing in the lineup. And of course, as they recognize person with a disability. Okay, well, you get priority boarding, this and that. The guy it was already all pre-planned. Okay, well, Sarah, you'll have to stand in the lineup like everybody else. Excuse me? No, so anyway, we got that problem fixed pretty quick. We get there, and it was a really bad storm. Like, it was windy. It was pouring out, and then it was trying to snow out. They had to de-ice the planes, and so we were, amazing enough, we actually left. It left on time.
Oh, wow. That's rare.
it went on time, but which I thought, I said to her, wow, we're actually leaving on time, amazing. But it taxied out to the runway. We sat there for 25 minutes. Yeah. And then the plane was kind of barely moving, stops. I'm going, oh, now all of a sudden, I'm like, holy, just took off. And we went up the altitude. And what was it, 25,000 feet. And I thought, okay. And he says, we're going to climb a little ways, a little bit higher than what we normally do in this area, but it's all good. We're just going to get away from the storm. And it was all down the whole West Coast. Like, it was all the way down to California. And it was a huge system. And you could see, looking out, and you could see all the major clouds. I was like, oh my gosh. But the barometric pressure was the same thing. We need to get the cabin pressure to a level. And I thought, what does he say? Sonia's like, everything's going to be fine. Oh, okay. She's like, everything's fine. And I was like,
she's braver than me.
The stewardess comes by, can I get you a cup of coffee? Or I think it's complimentary. I go, coffee? Sure. I'll have coffee now.
What a stiff drink.
I'm thinking, how about something else,
Something harder.
but we get there. But the thing is that it was good. Like, the landing was good coming in. Then her parents got a little bit pissed at me, actually, after, because we get there and Sonia goes, I need to use the washroom. I go, can you not use one in the airport, wherever that is? Well, I need to go now. Oh, okay. You need to go now. I get it. Okay.
All the coffee I drank.
All the coffee she drank, and pop and coffee and all this stuff they kept giving us, bottled water. So, why not? It's free. Complimentary. Why take advantage of it, right? What the hell? So, so the captain says, hey, I understand this is the first time you're on WestJet. And they had the plane decked out as a Disneyland theme. So they had it all decked out that way. And I said, yeah, on this plane, yeah. And he goes, okay. You want to get a picture? So he said, I go, sure. And he goes, well, what do I do? I goes, oh, here, get into the co-captain seat. Excuse me? Get into the co-captain seat. I go, well, all these mechanisms, these switches. And I said, I don't want to bump anything. He goes, the plane's off. Don't worry. I've now turned it off and I can control it. So anyway, I leaned down. I said, I'll just sit here, sir. So he goes, no, get in the captain's seat. So I sat down there. Anyway, he got a photo of me too, and her parents were waiting because we were waiting for Sonia to go in the washroom. Then, of course, I had to go to the washroom when I got into the airport. I'd go through customs again. Get in there. What are you bringing back? Nothing. Myself, and I, my luggage. I said my luggage. So we left. When we left, we had all bunch of different kinds of chips. I had this kind of chips and this kind of chocolate bars and chips and you name it. It was a novelty store. I love this one. It was called, what was it? The dollar. What was it called? I think it was
99 cents.
99-cent store, Kyla. It's called the 99-cent store. You ever been there?
Well, I've been to dollar stores.
Yeah, but this one's called 99-cent store. You could get lettuce there. You can get whole heads of lettuce. You can get everything you can think of there. So I was like a little playground for me. I was like, I'm gonna have this and this, take it back with me, because stuff that we don't normally have in Canada, they had there. So I went and loaded down the luggage as much as I could, get to customs. And the guy's like, what are you bringing back? Can I open up your luggage? Sure. So I stood back. He goes, if you could just stand back for me, please. Yeah, no problem. What he goes, what the hell? I go, what? I go, holy, are you hungry? I go, no, not really, but I'm just bringing back souvenirs. You got enough to actually supply a whole canteen store there, sir.
Did you have any of these, though?
No, I didn't. I did not have any of those.
That sounds like a segue to me.
That sounds like a segue. But when we lifted off, we actually, it's ironic that we actually had to divert into, instead of YVR, I looked down and I could see water. And I thought, what the heck? And I looked in and I said to Sonia, where, like, are we in Vancouver? Isn't YVR over that way? Because I saw land. It was not dark. It was getting dark, but not quite. And it was starting to go out. And I thought, we're going across a body of water. Where are we going? She goes, oh my gosh, that looks like Nanaimo. I thought, why are we going over toward Nanaimo? Like, the plane was circling around, went over that way, and it came back to YVR, like back further out. It was because of the jet stream. Apparently, it was some kind of air current. It was quite windy out, and I guess they had to divert around it or something. I don't know. It was really strange. But that was quite the experience. But I always cherished the snacks that I brought back, and the look on the customs face was like, I said, do you want one? And he says to me, thanks, sir, but I'm not allowed to actually have anything from there. But if I was allowed, I would take the chips, because I like those chips that you got in there. And that kind of goes with what we're going to be talking about now is the chip guru is here to talk about the chip that she has, and we're going to dive into that. This is going to be good, folks. This is going to be good.
You're going to be glad that you
sneezed and my snow.
People are going to be glad that they stuck around for the whole show.
Yes.
Just for this one moment.
Yeah.
All right. So today I brought Zapp's potato chips. These you could really only get in like the southeastern United States. So, like, I guess the closest to here that I've seen them has been in Illinois, which is eastern. It's not really south, but that's the closest you can. And they don't ship to Canada, so we can't get them here at all. And these are a new flavor I haven't tried yet. These are called Hotter and Hot Jalapeno.
So hotter and hot. I can't wait to
I'm hoping it's not like the Taki one chip challenge. So, but before we open them, I did bring a fun chip fact for you. And I thought, because you video record this podcast, I thought I would do like a video themed chip fact. So,
great.
You've probably noticed people in TV shows and movies eating potato chips, and they're always eating the same brand of potato chips. They're called Let's. And this is the same fake brand of potato chips. It's been in shows like Sons of Anarchy, My Name is Earl, Cougar Town, Orange is the New Black, Arrested Development. Like, it spans the gamut. It's like the 555 number.
Yeah.
It's for movies. Let's potato chips. So these are Zapp's, not Let's.
Okay.
So, step one. Let's open the bag.
The unboxing.
Oh, okay. These have, like, right away on the nose, a really good jalapeno smell. You know when you get like those pickled jalapenos on your nachos, that aroma, that little bit of spice in your nose? These have that. So I'm very excited. I think I'm going to get exactly what's advertised. They smell spicy.
That's good.
So if I cry, don't blame me. Chip looks good.
Yeah.
Looks like a heart.
Yeah, lots of flavor angles on here.
The texture looks pretty good too of it.
Yep. Yeah. So taste is king, though. So let's give it a try. That's the ASMR portion of the podcast. Woo. Okay, they weren't initially spicy, but as I'm talking after I eat that one, it's really like picking up. Like I can feel the spice all the way down in my throat.
Oh wow.
Oh yeah. These are hotter than hot.
Spice aroma.
I don't know if you've ever had like the Miss Vicky's jalapeno.
Oh yes. Oh yeah.
So these have less of like a jalapeno flavor as far as like the pepper flavor, but they have a lot more heat. And the heat is a lot more pervasive. So they're pretty good. I'm a fan, but I don't think I can eat more than a few. Without melting. So highly recommend if you're in the US, try the Zapp's potato chips.
Nice.
A good glass of wine would go good with those.
Oh yeah, I could use a glass of wine.
Would go good.
Glass of wine would go good.
Yeah, like a nice and crisp white wine.
Yes. I remember we were at our parents' place at a Christmas time one year, and her dad gets out. What's that name of that drink that your dad always gets out?
Oh,
It's
a Norwegian drink.
It's a Norwegian drink. It's
brain lapse.
Brain lapse. It'll come to me 1 second.
No.
Can't be as bad as my brain lapse earlier.
Hang on, let me Google it.
She's gonna Google it. Oh, here.
Okay.
The Google always comes in handy for these kind of.
There you go.
Oh yeah. I used to try and like push my brain where I'd do a rule where I wouldn't Google something that I was trying to think of unless I'd been drinking. In which case, I could no longer trust my brain, so I wasn't going to give it the chance.
And it's amazing after when I did Google, when I did that one time, and then I came up with this. Okay, why did I search for that? Like, how did that name come up for the? But anyway, it's a she's looking it up. How kind of
Activate.
Oh, Activate.
Oh yeah.
It's called Activate.
Oh, that stuff will mess you up.
That stuff. Oh yeah. Well, I tell you, we were having turkey dinner. Okay, so her mom has some glasses of wine, and she's like, here, pours it out. How much would you like? And she's a little tumbler, and she's pouring up. All of a sudden, I see this. And I turn and her dad's talking to me. I was like, ooh, a little bit more. I'm going, ooh, okay. I'm thinking that's a little bit too much in my glass, but that's okay. I can handle that with this nice big dinner. That's good. And her dad goes, well, first of all, we got the Activate. So we got these little shooter glasses. And so he pours it there. And he goes, okay, cheers to, the season. Yeah, okay. And so I'm talking, we're talking, and their dad reaches over, and I can see him pouring something into a glass. And her mom goes, I think, I was talking to her sister. Sonia's sister was there that one year. And so her sister, we were talking, and her mom go, what do you want? And he says, just pass me his glass, shooter glass. All I heard was pass the glass over. So he fills up my glass with some more Activate. And he puts it over, and her mom goes, oh, he wants you to have this. I'm like, wait a minute, I've already had it. I'm thinking, I'm not losing my mind.
Brent, tell me you didn't drive.
Mind. I'm thinking he wants me to have more Activate. I'm thinking, no, this stuff is going to mess me up real bad on top of the wine. Oh, boy.
Tell me you didn't drive, please.
I did not drive. I did not drive the Santa's sleigh.
I stayed the night there.
Thank God I had to stay the night, but I tell you, I slept like a little baby. Boy.
Good.
Yeah. But glad I wasn't trying to ride a bike.
Yeah, no kidding.
You tried walking.
I want to ride my bicycle. I want to ride my bike.
Yeah. That's okay. They live in a mobile park, so that was an interesting walk. So we went for a walk around, but nice. Yeah. Cool. But it was cold. It was really cold out, so it really actually wakes you up in a hurry too when it's. Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for having me on this podcast.
It was awesome having you on. Yeah, we'll have to do this again.
Enjoyed this. Oh yeah, I've had such a fun time. And I mean, I got to end it with chips, so that's also
there you go.
Excuse to eat chips in the middle of the workday. Yes, please.
Yeah. Paul had mentioned about a video segment that you did on that one. Some of his music videos. There was one that you were dressed up or something and nobody recognized who you were.
Oh yeah. Yeah, but I won't say which video it is.
No, I won't say which one. No, I don't know. but you know what? It's I find them very interesting. Though the videos that he puts out, Paul puts out there, they're really good. You guys should do another duo on those. I'm looking forward to it.
We have so many in the wings that we're working on. We finally got a little time with some projects that we've been long-term working on that are wrapping up. So more music to come, and hopefully more episodes of
more
Chip
and more
Guru.
chips. Yes. I'm looking forward to those too. Because
Chip Guru will be back for 2024.
Well, you can thank us for helping you reboot your Chip Guru
segment. Give that a good
I will. I'll plug your podcast in
there you go.
In the first episode.
There you go.
Oh yeah, for sure. And when you get that launch too, we're gonna get you back on. And
awesome.
We'll continue on. Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Kyla. Yeah. Until next time.
Bye, everyone.